Just put it right there, sir. Thank you.
My name is Howard Barrickmo. I'm a retired member of the, I guess I should say a proud retired member of the Arizona Air National Guard. My last day in uniform was probably 35 years ago or more. And all I know is what I read in the papers. And I was hoping, now the report that you were talking about, is that the Adams report? How do I get a copy of it? And you don't need to answer that right now.
I think there are copies in the room.
Oh, good. Well, as I say, the only thing I know is what I read in the papers, and I say to myself when I read that, man alive, has the Guard really gone to hell in a handbasket? And I decided to come on down here and find out. And I think from what everybody is telling me, yeah, if it hasn't gotten there by now, it's going to get there pretty soon. My days as far as running into things in action, if you will, was about 35, 36, 37 years ago. And it was my intent at one time to give a young man in my organization an Article 32. That's a non-judicial punishment. You put him on garbage detail for 2 weeks or whatever it may be. And I was not allowed to do that. Yet I was a commander of this individual. And again, 35 years back in time, my memory gets a little bit jaded and probably one-sided to my side, not his. But if I recall correctly, he was an NCO, and we were at summer camp up at Navajo, first time that anybody from the Air Guard had gone up there. And the guys went to town. The troops went to town. And we didn't have any vehicles other than the military vehicles, so I said, I told them, get out, have responsible people in there. If you're going to have a beer or two, don't do it with those guys who are driving. That was before designated drivers came about. Well, it turned out that this individual was the designated driver, but he designated himself to drink beer and whatever. And I got complaints from the troops that were on board that, yeah, he was 1 or 2 or 3 sheets to the wind. So I tried to administer Article 32 on him, and I was prevented to do that by, unfortunately, the JAG officer from Tucson. He says, no, you got to have witnesses, you got to have this, that, and the other thing. And I think the adjutant general at the time stepped in there as well and said, no, we don't want to do that. And looking at things from that time on, it was basically don't rock the boat, don't make waves. And besides, we're not really ready to provide this type of quote, justice, unquote, to our troops. We just don't want to do it. So this thing has been simmering for some time, and my God, it's boiling over. I'm a little bit afraid at times to let the general public know, and your general public, I shouldn't say it, that I'm a member of, or an ex-member of the Arizona National Guard, because it's really, in trying to explain to people who don't know what's happening in the Guard, and as I say, I only know what I read in the paper, it's difficult to get them to understand what is going on. I certainly can't give them a good answer. I hope that we can solve this, because the Guard, both Army and Air, is something that we need, not only in Arizona, but the rest of the nation needs a good, strong Guard. And I'm afraid that we've gotten a little bit weak in the last 35 years. Thank you.
I thank you for your comments, and you reflect my sentiments exactly. The consistent messages I hear are that we have an opportunity to put things on a corrected course, and that is what I would like to see happen. I'd like to have the Guard operating at the highest ethical level possible. Thank you.
My name is Roy Miller. I came to Arizona in 1967 from the Air Force Academy and spent 5 years flying at Williams Air Force Base, and then 25 years in the reserve, and retired as a colonel in 1997. My last 5 years were working with the Arizona National Guard. I was the emergency preparedness liaison for Arizona. And I just want to make 2 points. because I've spent some time, mostly just because of my concern, studying issues of honor and ethics in the military. And the problem with the Guard is that it's such a clubby atmosphere. It's just very, very challenging. You don't find this as much, although obviously it's there in the reserve and active, but the clubby atmosphere in the Guard is a very challenging issue. So one point I would like to make is that I think this investigation should have been conducted by the Department of Defense Inspector General, not the Guard. And I expressed that opinion to Governor Brewer early on and did not receive a response. But again, the reason for that is you need to get out of the club to investigate something like this. The only other point I would like to make is that I believe very strongly, because of this incident and many others, that this is a leadership issue. This will not be fixed by any bottom-up changes in rules and regulations. This is leadership. And of course, what I mean by that is it's the Adjutant General. And the kinds of discussions that I saw in my 5 years in working with the Guard mostly had to do with fraternization and sexual harassment. But I think it was fairly well known that these kinds of activities occurred, and they simply cannot be changed unless the Adjutant General takes that responsibility. So I believe that the current TAG Adjutant General should not be the one implementing these changes, that it should be a new Adjutant General, and that clearly this is a leadership issue and not improper rules and regulations or legislation that needs to be changed. I don't think that's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. We have one more.